Just checking the timing. Okay, yeah, starting now. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on the US EB-5 Residency and Citizenship Program. My name is Muzaffar and I'm Head of Business Development at Canfield's Law. And Canfield's Law is the leading expert in the UK immigration law, where we assist our clients with obtaining the UK Tier 1 entrepreneur visa and obtaining the UK permanent residency and citizenship. Today we are presenting US EB-5 program and presented by myself, and I'm pleased to invite our guest speaker Mona Shah from Mona Associates. Hi Mona.
Hello, how are you, Mustafa?
Good. Lovely to having here as a guest. Thanks for joining us today. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have I just wanted to tell audience that if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your messenger control panel, and I'll bring them up during the presentation, and we will also have time for questions at the end of today's presentation. So now, without further ado, we'll turn the time over to our topics that we're going to cover today. So we will cover the following topics: the why investing in USA, EB-5, the unique benefits of EB-5 visa investor program, and as I said, at the end of the webinar, we'll have the Q&A sessions, and Mona will be also happy to answer to your questions you may have. As I said, the speakers today is myself and our guest speaker Mona Shah from US. She's joining from New York now at the moment, and she's founder and attorney from Mona Shah Associates. Myself, I'm a head of business development at Canfield's Law. I have previous banking background, project financing experience, and worked with world's leading banks and managing investment projects. I'm currently working at Canfield's Law as the head of business development and specializing in UK immigration law. Working in the UK, in London, in our firm, I also launched first Sharia-compliant seed enterprise investment fund, and I have also expertise in startup business projects and then funding and foreign direct investment. And as I said, our guest speaker, Mona Shah, is a U.S. attorney, founder of Mona Shah Associates. She has an extensive knowledge of all facets of U.S. immigration law, and her practical expertise ranges from specialist business petitions to multi-issue deportation and removal litigations. And Mona, would you brief about your, just tell briefly about yourself?
Thank you. Muzaffar, thank you. Yes, well, for anyone who's listening and you hear the English accent, I am actually English. I was born in Surrey, raised in Newcastle, and I was in university up there in the north as well. And I was a Crown prosecutor before I came over to the US. So I am very familiar with, obviously, UK law, being a solicitor, as well as the US law. And I understand a lot of people's issues. So we started this practice here in 97, 98, and we've had obviously considerable experience. The EB-5 sector, though, didn't begin until 2006. And I'm the original founder of what's called the first regional center here in New York City. I have worked with hundreds and hundreds of regional centers all over the country, hundreds of projects, and we've probably filed over 1,000 petitions for EB-5 also. And we're generally all over the world. But Middle East is one of our favorites. We have a setup in China and Kazakhstan and Korea, and so as well as Dubai and other areas. Yes.
Great, Mona. Thank you very much for this great introduction. Just want to tell you about our firm, Canfield's Law, together with Mona Shah Associates Global. We assist clients in obtaining US EB-5 visa. And Canfield's Law, we're based in London and Swiss Cottage, so we are a London-based law firm. We specialize in UK immigration and assist our clients to obtain permanent residency by investing in existing existing
Well,
businesses or setting up a new businesses. Hello.
Muzaffar, I did want to bring out a point though, because EB-5 as well as what we do Tier 1 has a lot to do with trust, because if people are putting an awful lot of money down on into projects, that it is important to explain to the audience how we are recognized. We've been voted in the top 25 for attorneys for EB-5 for the last 4 years, as well as being on the presidential advisory committees and public policy committees of what's called IIUSA. So all of these little factors do show how trustworthiness and our ability in these fields.
Great. Yeah, I totally agree. And as you said, you helped raise millions of dollars for various EB-5 projects, and also you experience in real estate projects and projects formations. So MSA securities team says you mentioned that you have a securities team,
Yes,
and
it's
that's
very important because EB-5 is a security. So that is something that we will talk about later. But and of course, the security exchange mechanism is there in the UK also. But when you offer securities, there's a lot of due diligence and things that have to happen.
And it's great to know that you've been original founder of the first EB-5 regional center in
Yes,
New York.
that's right.
That's great. And just also to brief about our firm, as I mentioned earlier, that we specialized in the UK immigration, but we working with Mona Shah, partnering with Mona Shah Associates with obtaining the US EB-5 visa. And Campus Law, just about our credibility as well. Campus Law is granted Lexcel accreditation, which is excellency certificate as a member and a member of Law Society. So Lexcel accreditation is given to the top managed law firm in the UK. Just give you about our credentials as well. Campus Law, as I said, we together with Mona Shah Associates, we work in assisting our clients with EB-5 visa, and tell you more about how we can assist you and the unique benefits of this EB-5 program. We also do travel a lot in different countries, to different countries, and do present and do seminars. Here, for example, you can see on the screen, I'm speaking in the Dubai, in the Novotel Hotel World Trade Center. We've done a seminar on the UK Citizenship Fire Investment Program on the Kingdom Plan. But today, obviously, we will be talking all about the US, all about the EB-5, US EB-5 program. And we've also done a number of seminars in countries like India, Moscow, and we do face-to-face meetings as well. We travel to Dubai, we travel to UAE, and set up a VIP meetings and talk about how we can assist on these programs. Also, you can see on the slide here, we been this, for example, the latest I think conference on the citizenship in Abu Dhabi. So we go and meet and present our kingdom plan. And Mona is, as she said, she's also very active. Her firm does lots of seminars and conferences. She attends on the conferences, and as you can see, she's been in a Business Life magazine. She's been in EB-5 Investment Voice magazine. And Mona, you're very how to say. You do this. You speak on the webinars. You on the recent UK conference on the citizenship. So it's great to know that. So can you brief about this?
About the webinar and yes.
No, about your
global presence. It's very important to do this, Mustafa, because with EB-5 there are many wrong assertions and miscommunications which go out. So we do regularly we get invited as well to speak overseas at different places, especially places where we know there's a lot of wrong information out there. We also have a podcast series which Hopefully, you will be a guest on our podcast soon. And in those
Yeah,
podcasts, we're always
thank
trying
you.
to inform and educate everybody. Education is a big
Yeah,
element of what we do. I'm also actually a
yeah,
adjunct professor at one of the colleges here in New York, or Baruch College, the City of New York College here, and we I teach EB-5.
fantastic, great, great model. So I'm going to move to the topic of why investing in the US, why USA attracts so much foreign direct investment, and I'll ask Mona to give your thoughts about that. So I believe when it comes to the EB-5 USA program, there's no shortage of reasons why investors choose the United States. What is this from the business-friendly environment and quality of life consideration to specific technology, supply chain infrastructure, workforce factors. First of all, I think it's the first choice for investors because businesses investing in the United States, regardless of industry, gain competitive advantage from one of the most open markets on the planet, and it is the world's largest market. The United States offers the largest consumer market on Earth with gross domestic products of 18 trillion and 325 million people. Also, it's a place where you can easily easily do business. I mean, it's the ease of doing business is another attractiveness, I would say. The United States is consistently ranked among the best internationally for its overall competitiveness and ease of doing business. Also, I think another attractiveness is workforce talent. The US workforce is diverse, skilled, innovative, and mobile, and US workers are among the most productive in the world. And the resources. It has abundant resources. As the third largest nation by geography, the United States is home to vast and varied landscapes with abundant natural resources. And of course, the access to capital. The United States hosts the most developed, liquid, flexible, and efficient financial markets in the world. A wide range of funding sources from banks and investment firms to capitalists and angel investors. So I would like to quickly ask Mona about your view. Why do you think that also USA so attractive to clients or to the investors?
I think you've actually mentioned a lot of the reasons, but one of the main reasons actually is education. Yes, this screen does show the FBI, and of course, education does lead living there and wanting to work there. Of the top 200 universities in the world, 170 are in the United States, and their resources they're just not comparable. So that is, I would say, out of 80% of all of our clients want to come to the United States because of education, mainly for their children. I think that was very important. Yes, the FDI, the EB-5 tax investment, people do succeed on merit. It is one of those countries where if you have the ability, you can make it in the United States.
Great, great. Okay, great. So, what about the EB-5 program? Could you give to our audience about a bit of overview
So, well,
of the EB-5
EB-5,
visa itself?
sure, EB-5 is, the EB stands for employment based. It's a category within the immigrant category within the United States. And EB-5 is the entrepreneur investor. It's very similar to the Tier 1. Even in the amount, the Tier 1 being £200, it's being, at this moment, the minimum amount being 500,000. But the main
Yeah.
thing with EB-5 is that it's a job creating program. It's unlike many of the European programs where you just purchase real estate and you can get residency. In the United States, you have to create jobs. And you yourself do not necessarily, if you decide you want to go there, or how would I set up a business, how would I create jobs? That's why there are so many regional center projects which are already set up for you to just invest into. It's finding the right project. It is also the only program, it has other advantages. It's the only program where you are getting your return of capital plus interest hopefully. It is the only program where you don't have to have any mastering of the language. You can, there's no resume required. You can be a young person at university, just starting, 17 years old maybe. You can be an old person in your 90s who wants to retire. It really doesn't matter. You do not have to show any resume or work or anything. And the whole family comes in on your $1,500,000 investment. So that's all children under the age of 21. No mother-in-laws, however,
Can
Mustafa. No mother-in-laws
yeah,
are getting
that
one
was
one.
my question. That that was my question I wanted to ask. Can parents join? Can their parents join? So about that, you mentioned about the age. So you mentioned about the maximum age for the children, and is it just to clarify what was the age
It is 21,
for
and
the
you
children to
have to
come
file.
under the
Yes,
different
you have
21?
right. You have to file the petition before the 21 birthday. And if a couple, a family filed the petition before the 21st birthday, the child is grandfathered into the petition.
Hmm. Hello.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Okay.
Okay. Fantastic. So well, I think we've covered the reasons why what is EB-5 and what is EB. So I wanted to ask Mona why um, to apply for EB-5. So you covered part of the points, but obviously I would like to add from my side as well. So it actually gives you a direct route to permanent residency in the US for the investor, spouse, and all unmarried children under the age of 21, like Mona just confirmed, and the freedom to live, work, and retire anywhere in the US. You can travel to and stays without another visa, so you don't need to have any visa, so you have free access to the US and road to US citizenship after 5 years. By the way, about this road to US citizenship. So initially, the visa is given for initial 2 years. Is that could you just brief to
Yes,
our audience about the timelines
of
for
course.
obtaining citizenship?
Okay, I'll explain that. The one disadvantage with the EB-5 is that it does take a little time to get your initial green card. The green card is your entry, your permanent stay in the United States. The citizenship begins when you get the actual green card. So at this point,
Yeah.
the processing times are really backlogged, and it's taking about a good 21 to 23 months to get your petition adjudicated. That's almost 2 years. And then after that, we have to file for your actual green card. That takes another through the consulate, which takes another 3 to 4 months. So if anybody is coming to the United States, they really need to plan it 2 years ahead. There are ways of coming in earlier through a non-immigrant visa, but through the EB-5 visa, you really need to plan that. After you get your green card, that is a conditional green card for 2 years. At the 3 months prior to the expiry of your 2 year period, we can file a petition to remove the conditions and make your petition permanent. But we have to show that the jobs have been created and that your money has been sustained, and of course that the applicant themselves is still eligible, meaning that they haven't committed any major crimes, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see. Okay, great. Thank you, Mona. And as you mentioned, of EB-5, it could includes family, so you can sponsor your family. Um, so no language or minimum education requirements. So you don't need to provide any language test. Like in the UK, you do have a minimum test requirements, or you need to provide the English language certificate of LTS. You don't have you don't need to. That's another advantage. And no business or management experience requirement for the applicant. And I think these are the advantages of the EB-5. And like Mona mentioned, you have a lower college tuition. You have a work authorization. By the way, just a quick question, Mona. So under the EB-5, people can work and work and seek for employment?
Yes. Yes, and they can live anywhere. You can invest in a project in New York and go and live in Arizona, or vice versa. When they say
So
lower
the main
quality, yes, sorry,
so the main applicant can work. Is that is
everybody
the
can
same?
work, everyone, not just the main
Great.
applicant. Yeah. Work and businesses and do it's
Okay.
just exactly the same flexibility as if you were a permanent resident.
Great. Great. Okay, fantastic. So, Mona, for example, you've mentioned about these, low college tuition fees, so residence flexibility. So it actually gives all it's like having a permanent green card. So initially
Yeah,
it will be a temporary green card
it's a
until the
temporary
client
card.
gets the permanent.
That's right. And because if it's with regards to anyone who's experiencing and is thinking of EB-5 because they want to study in the United States, one of the advantages of doing EB-5 is that you become a local, a permanent resident, which puts you on the same category as a local person. Each university has two quotas. They have a quota for the overseas, in which you're competing for places with the Western world, and then they have a larger quota for the locals. So you would have a better chance at a better quality university as well as paying lesser fees.
Fantastic. Great. Now I would like to move to the investments side of things. I understand that EB-5, obviously, as the client or the applicant needs to invest minimum 500,000 US dollars. So what are the availabilities? What are the projects or what are the investment investment projects would you help the client during the process?
So there are three types of investments that you can do under the EB-5 program. One is a direct, which was the original, the direct investment, which is the entrepreneurial, which is usually a single person. They may want to open their own business. Perhaps it's a franchise, perhaps it's a pharmacy. There's a flexibility in that because it's your project. You have the control. However, you have to usually live in the same location as your business because you're managing it. And as far as jobs are concerned, you can only count direct jobs, like jobs with a payroll. That's for your actual people. Similarly, if you jump to a third, a pooled investment is very similar in the sense that you can only count direct jobs. But a pooled investment might be three or four or five friends coming together and making an investment. Perhaps it's a small hotel, perhaps it's a restaurant, or maybe it's a shopping mall, or some instance, and where they can put their funds together and they can count it as an EB-5 project. And the third type of EB-5 project, which really encompasses the vast majority, is through a regional center. A regional center is an entity which has been approved by USCIS for the purposes of collecting investment and having a project. It is a pure passive investment. You don't have to do anything, a minimal management. And this is the one for the person who really doesn't want to be bothered. They want to spend the money and get their green card. Here, the advantage is that you can count direct, indirect, and induced jobs. So projects which are real estate in nature, for example, if someone's building a hotel in the middle of Manhattan, then they want to count construction jobs and indirect jobs such as rubbish men and workers in the neighborhood. All of these things can be counted through a regional center, through an economic model. So these are the three types of projects. Your own, a pooled investment, say perhaps with friends or family, or even with some other commercial enterprise, or through a regional center. And right now, there's a ton of regional centers, maybe around about 800 regional centers. Not everybody has a project. There's only, I would say, about 150 to 200 active ones. But it's still very difficult to decide without assistance which is the right type of project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great, Mona. Thank you very much. So when it comes to the choice, I believe you will give to clients, the applicants, choice of investment. How that works? For example, do you give them particular, in terms of the well, I understand, like, for example, whether you would like to go for the direct investment or through the regional center or the pooled investment, but in terms of the giving the choice, will it be your role in terms of giving that choice, or will you introduce to regional centers spiders in when it comes to the projects?
This is quite a difficult subject because many lawyers in the United States are not able to really answer this. On the whole, as a lawyer, we are not financial advisors and we're not allowed to give financial advice per se. However, we are allowed to give advice which comes through the nature of our business. And because our office, for example, spends a lot of time putting projects together and we know a lot of the players in the market, we actually can give some very good advice. We also have a number of projects going through our office because our office is also registered regional center. So what we do is we never push a client towards any project, of course, it's always there as their choice, but we do try to steer people towards what we know are better, more safer projects. People we teach our clients as much as we can about due diligence, how to look at the management, how to look at the location and the background, and basically the requirements for the EB-5 and whether that's fulfilled and whether they'll get that green card or not. The slide that you have up right now, Muzaffar, is a slide that our office put together just showing people who just think, oh, I'm going to put my own project, how difficult that is because the buying power of 500,000, although it sounds a lot, is really not very much when you have to count 10 full-time jobs. And often if somebody wants their own project, they really do have to put more than 500 in. It does work with the pooled investments, either regional center or schools, basically because you have many 500s, and usually the developers themselves will put their own capital into the project. So you have more money there to create jobs. But as you can see, if you look at this, if you have to create 10 full-time jobs with a minimum of 35 hours, even at the minimum wage, it's a lot of money, and it does eat into your 500 very quickly.
Okay, that's good to know. And I'm moving to another slide in our presentation. Yeah, I think we've covered that.
Well, we kind of have and we kind of haven't, because the one thing about EB-5 is that people think I'm going to go into real estate, but they really don't understand the fact that real estate aren't always the most advantageous projects, because the investment into real estate is often a loan to the mezzanine portion, which is the most riskiest part. Some large real estate projects have been hampered by construction delays, for example. There are many other types of projects which we do favor in our office. We tend to go for, we do like manufacturing projects, we do like other projects in other areas like transportation, like green energy. And as long as they're viable, obviously, the location and the background and the capital stack are very important. We do show our clients all types of projects.
Okay, great. So, going to another slide in our presentation. So, you mentioned about the projects on the business side, on the real estate. So, do you but obviously I can see there are some questions coming from our audience, and I think there was when it comes to the regional center project, there's a question from Mr. Muhammad. If I choose to invest with the regional center project, how long do I have to wait before I get my $500,000 US dollars back? So if I that's the question from Mr. Muhammad. If he chooses to invest with the regional center project, how long does he need to wait before he gets that money back?
It depends again very much on the project. Some projects are not able to give money back early. Under the law, you're able to have a return of your funds until you get to the third section, which is filing for the permanent green card, which takes about 4 years. So 4 to 5 years is the minimum time that you have to keep your money tied up in an investment. Thereafter, it depends on the project. If the project has the ability to pay you back. For example, if it's a condominium project, and they've sold condominiums and they've sold the apartments and they are able to pay you back, great. If it's a hotel project, are they able to repay you, or are they not able to repay you? If it's a transportation project, do they have the revenue to repay you? So if they are able to repay you, then the least amount of time is 4.5 to 5 years. And many projects, many regional center projects do go to 7 to 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see from this slide, as you can see from this slide, repayment of EB-5 capital investments, they can be repaid only after, this one's a little old actually, it's not only after that was the old law about the approval of the 829. Very recently, USCIS just gave a policy memorandum change showing that as soon as the 829 has been filed, you can have your capital returned. Of course, you have to earn interest from that capital as well. That's part of the law.
Okay, great. Okay, what are the upcoming changes? I mean, what in the U.S. Immigration law? During the conference, we've spoke about the upcoming changes or the recent changes on the UK immigration law because you have the great experience in the UK immigration. But can I ask for the upcoming changes in the EB-5 program?
Right. So these changes have on the cards for some time. There have been there has been a lot of lobbying back and forth because we're never satisfied with whichever bill comes out, quite frankly. But what we know for sure is that there is going to be a ton of upcoming changes with regards to securities laws, and that's already been in things like mandatory site visits. So all of this is good for the investor. If USCIS, if the government is having a mandatory site visit, you know that the project is up and running and they're creating jobs and they're doing what they're supposed to do. Oversight is going to be looked at. There's going to be more changes with regards to the securities laws in the paperwork which goes into the project. Who can actually own a regional center? Right now, anyone can own a regional center, whether it's a foreign person or someone with a criminal conviction. So all of these things are changing. The other changes which are definitely happening are upcoming changes in the investment amount. Again, you might have heard of this for some time, that the minimum amount of 500 will be going up. That unfortunately because of arguments and other issues and lobbying, has not happened. What has happened recently, however, is that USCIS, who have the ability to make policy changes themselves, have brought out new policy changes. They have showed that they want to raise the investment amount to actually the figures are very high, 1.2 and 1.8 million. We don't know if that's going to be the final figure. This is currently running through the process. At this point in time, today's date, they are at step number 7 out of 9 steps before this will be implemented into the law. So they don't have too many steps to go. We guesstimate that by maybe April or March of next year, we may be seeing that the investment amount will be increasing. In addition to the investment amount, one of the reasons that some areas like Manhattan can utilize this 500 PEA amount is the 500 lower investment amount is because we can show areas by using a loophole in the law as being high unemployment. That loophole is now going to be closed, and it will be the lower amount will just be there for rural and real high unemployment places, and areas like Miami, Chicago, LA, DC, New York will be at the higher amount. Most investors do want to go into these type of cities because they feel that the project is more viable if they go into these type of cities. So that is going to curtail a lot of investment, unfortunately, because it will be at the higher amount. So again, if you are interested, now is the time. In addition to the changes in securities laws and in the investment amount, we are expecting changes to come in with regards to the source of funds rules. One of the main changes which will happen, which will be very difficult for many investors, is the rule on loans and gifts. At this point, a gift can be from anybody, a boyfriend, an uncle. It looks like some of the rules will change on this, that the gift can only be from a family member. Loans as well will be a little bit more difficult. You won't be able to take a loan out and show your money coming into EB-5 as a loan as easy as you can now. So these are the main changes. There are a number of other smaller changes, but these are the main changes.
Great. I want to thank you very much for these questions. So I would like to tell to our audience, so if you do have any questions, please, you can screen our contact details on the slides on the screen. So our head office is based in London. We have an offices in Hong Kong, in Moscow, and of course we are partnering with Monashah, and you can see our representative office of Monashah's offices in New York on the screen. So briefly to move to the question and answer sections. It looks we have a few questions, and Mr. Farouk asks a question as how many EB-5 cases have you filed so far? That's a question from Mr. Farouk, and I think that's the question to you, Mona.
Right, we are one of the most experienced firms out there, and it's not just how many we filed, it's the variety and the nature of cases, because we've dealt with people, investors from all over the world, including the Far East, that would be China, Korea, and Vietnam, as well as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all of these countries, as well as Europe, Australia, and Africa, etc. Petitions, we've probably filed over 1,000 petitions, as I mentioned before. And projects, we put hundreds of projects and regional centers together all over the country. Small projects as well as large-scale projects.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mona. Another question is from Mr. Anwar. He is asking that once I become a U.S. permanent resident, a green card holder, do I have to start paying tax on my global income?
Big question that everybody asks. Yes, you do. As soon as you are a permanent resident, you are going to tax for your global income. However, if you can handle this very carefully from the outset, it's not as bad as it sounds. We have some of the richest people in the world here in the United States. For the one thing, you are not double taxed. That means that if you're taxed elsewhere, you cannot be double taxed. Secondly, it's not a tax on your assets. It's only a tax on the income. And again, there are lots of deductions and things that you can do against that. I mean, I'm not a tax lawyer, so I'm hesitant to give any tax advice, but you will also find that the United States is one of the countries which did not sign that famous tax treaty. So if you have a trust open in a few of the states in America, they stay secret. So it's not part of the factor which Switzerland is and most of Europe is. I hope that answers.
Okay, great, Mel. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. That's answers in full. There's another question from Mr. Farouk. How long do I have to stay in the US to ensure that my permanent resident status green card will remain valid?
Okay, so that's a very good question. We should really had a slide on that, Muzaffar, because we get asked that all the time. So the US is very different from the Tier 1. Under the Tier 1, I believe that you have to stay at least 7 months to keep it running. You don't have to do that at all in the US.
Yeah.
You only have to make an entry once every 6 months. And there isn't any minimum time, but be aware that you will not be able to jump to citizenship until you've resided at least 2.5 years out of 5 years, directly preceding your application for citizenship. But if you decide you never want to be a citizen and you're quite happy just coming and going, you can even come for a day, a few hours, as long as you make an entry once every 6 months.
Great, Mona. Thank you very much. And Mr. I would like to move to another question, Mona. There's Mr. Farouk is asking, can my kids go to public schools when they are in conditional LPR status?
Yes, of course. As soon as they go in, they can absolutely go to public school. And one of the advantages about the US is that if you're in a good school district, you do not have to spend money on private schools. Whilst I was in the UK, my parents struggled a lot to have myself and my brother and sister all in private schools. In the US, if you are in a good district, you don't need to do that. In fact, the public schools are actually better than some of the private schools.
Great. And another question from Mr. Mohammed is, can my parents join? I think we answered this. You answered that question, but it's Mr. Muhammad is asking question: can my parents join?
They can't join initially in the sense that they can't be part of the EB-5. But Muzaffar, one of the big differences between the UK and the US is that it's not an automatic right for you to sponsor your parents as a UK citizen. In the US, it's an automatic right. So once you are a US citizen, your parents are automatically allowed in, and it's current, meaning that there's no waiting period. They can come in immediately. This is what President Trump has called chain migration. But there's a lot of controversy about that recently because his wife's parents just became citizens through the same method. So people are calling him hypocrite. But yes, you're not allowed initially on the EB-5, but as soon as you're a citizen, you have a right to immediately sponsor your parents.
So media, fantastic. Thank you very much, Mona. And Mr. Muhammad asking, Mr. Muhammad, thanks for being active. The question is asking, do I need to visit US before applying?
I'm sorry, that got cut off a little. Could you say that again?
Do I need to? He's asking. Mr. Muhammad is asking a question. Do I need to visit USA before about this EB-5 program?
No, not at all.
So he actually needs to.
Yeah. You don't. I mean, we like people to visit projects. We do encourage it, but there's no compulsion to do that. You don't have.
Okay, great. So they don't need to. They'll have to apply, come to visit and see, visit US before making application to EB-5 visa, and we can help. Together with Mona Shah, with our partner attorneys in US. We can assist you with process. And okay, another question I think from Mr. Ijaz: how long is the process, and how long it takes to obtain the green card? I think we've answered that question, but I think the main question is how long is the process and what are the next steps?
Well, the process initially, as I said, it varies. I mean, you can get into the United States in just about over 2 years if you're outside the United States. But the entire process before you get your money back is over about 4.5 to 5 years. So, again, we should have had a slide on this. But step 1 is hiring the right lawyers. Step 2 is finding the right project. Step 3 is filing your petition and sourcing your income, the amount of money which the 500,000 or the million that you're putting into the project. We do have to source that.
Yeah.
Step 4 is once you have your decision from USAS and you have your approval, that we file for your actual visa to come into the US or your green card if you are actually in the US as a student or on some other status. The next step you have is a 2-year waiting period in which time a project can produce the job. And then the final step is the removal of any condition on your green card to make your green card a 10-year green card and to make you eligible for citizenship.
Okay, I see. Mona, thank you very much. Great. I think I like the fact that we had some quite interesting questions to raise today, and it looks like we've covered all our questions, Mona. Is anything else you wanted to cover before I wrap up today's webinar?
I think you've done a great job, Professor. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure working with you guys. It's a pleasure working with people who are reputable and diligent in the field. This is a difficult area. It's very important to have the correct representation from the outset.
Great. It was a pleasure having you as a guest speaker, Mona. Thank you very much for your time as well. Thanks for this detailed information about the presentation about the EB-5 and how you can assist and how we can assist together to our clients. So I would like to actually wrap up and and thank everyone. Thanks our audience to joining our webinar today. We appreciate you being here. I hope you received the valuable information, and if you feel that the EB-5 program is for you, if you feel that you are qualified for this EB-5 program, if you meet the requirements on that we've stated during today's presentation. Please register your interest in the following link on your screen. You have also you can put EB-5. You can write EB-5 in your messenger screen as well, and we will give you a call. We'll contact you, and obviously we will be more than happy to answer to all your questions. And yeah, please register your interest. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Thank you. Thank you, Mona.
Thank you.